are now recording.
All right, we're starting right now.
Yep.
Okay, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first ever. What are we gonna call this show, Parker? The Bad Movie Review.
Yeah, bad movie review or wheel review. I think wheel review is probably what we're
um,
gonna end up calling it.
Wheel Review. The
Yeah.
Wheel Review. Haha.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So for those of you who don't know, I have put together a giant list of about 120 movies or so. And they're all movies that either Amazon has recommended us, friends have recommended us, or
We've
just
just
end up
stumbled upon on
finding
the
their
internet.
way onto the wheel. And so, what we do is every so often we put them on this giant wheel and we spin it. And
And we watch
recently,
it.
yeah, and we watch it. And recently we came upon.
Jesus Christ Vampire Hunter, 2001, an Ontario film about Jesus Christ. And he's a vampire hunter. He fights side by side with a South American wrestler. What do you call those? The ones with the
Luchador.
yeah, luchador. And they kick ass. Jesus Christ knows kung fu, and he beats the shit out of a lot of vampires
Yeah,
and
well,
atheists. A lot of atheists.
what's really interesting about this, so I guess we'll kind of start here with the beginning of the film, and then we'll keep going. But the interesting thing about this film is that we start off with not following Jesus, but rather some punk guys with
Punk
uh,
priests.
punk priests, punk priests with haircuts that are the mohawks, dyed mohawks, and they go and meet Jesus on a beach. So I don't.
Jesus has already been around. He's been hanging out. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
well, I guess we should mention that the whole film is through ADR, right? So they didn't actually film, like they went out and filmed people saying their lines and then realized that the audio quality was so bad that they had everyone back into the studio to re-record over their voice lines. And what's really funny about that is that none of the dialogue matches up with anyone's lips. So
There,
you
there
can
are
kind of
points in the movie where it is quite good, and there's points in the movie where it just does not match at all.
it does not match at all. And for the first little 10 minutes, they, for whatever reason, were really bad. And
Mm.
so when we were watching this film, we kept making fun of that. We kept making our own dialogue. But I guess so. What happens is first we're introduced to this. The first part of the movie, we're introduced to this random homeless character. We think he pops out of a bush. Uh,
Oh yes, it's like a what do you call it? One of the like he
Mormon.
looks like a sultan almost. You know what I
No,
mean? He's got like Rasputin hair. You know, he's got this big mangy beard. And he's holding a Bible, and he starts ranting about this random nonsense. Um,
yeah,
and
this
then
this random event, like he starts talking about how like Jesus will come back and save all of us, and then we get to the punk, you know, priests being told that there's vampires back on the loose and that they have to go save. um
the world's from vampires.
yeah, yeah.
Find Jesus.
And so it's very unclear as to how they knew Jesus was just randomly on this beach as he's
Mhm.
baptizing someone in the water.
Baptizing someone who was bitten earlier in the film.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but we
um
skipped over.
uh was she bitten? No, I think she was just a random. I think she
No,
was
I'm
actually
telling
just a
you, it's the
random
same
hitter.
actress. They like the vampire girl pulls her out of the car and bites her, and then Jesus is like baptizing her in a lake,
Huh. I
and
no,
then
I completely missed that. I
and
didn't.
then and then they get attacked by vampires, and Jesus has the two priests, the punk priest and like the normal like Aryan master race priest, bless the entire lake. Um, and while they're blessing the lake, they just get murdered because they're not paying attention. They're just blessing the lake, and then Jesus pushes all the vampires except one into the lake, and then like roasts them alive.
Yeah, so I
And one of them,
suppose I suppose one of the vampire's weaknesses is blessed holy water.
Yeah, and I
Um,
guess you could just bless an entire body of water,
plus
which
an
is
entire ocean.
an
Which,
entire
by the
ocean.
way, can we point out that this person was getting baptized in water that was not already blessed? Isn't
Oh,
that supposed to be
wait
like?
a minute.
Isn't that supposed to be something that
And I thought Jesus could walk on water. Why was he in the water, blessing her?
maybe you could just turn off? Oh, here's what I will say about the
Turned
film.
off, huh?
This film does give Jesus a whole lot more canonical powers than we've ever seen in a Jesus before.
That is true. He like he's able to split himself into two different people later in the movie and fight two different vampires at once.
Which they explain as Jesus being everywhere. So, I mean,
Jesus, Jesus is everywhere, so he's always able to fight all the vampires all at once.
I guess the
But
source material in the Bible did set up the fact that Jesus is in all of our
he's
hearts,
they're
but
not
not
lying.
literally.
Well,
But I guess
it begs the question, Parker. If he could have been everywhere all the time in the beginning, why couldn't he just have killed all the vampires right at the start?
yeah, you get a real sense in this movie that Jesus is holding back throughout the film.
Oh, he really is.
But so we move on from Jesus beats up these two vampires. We move on to where Jesus gets a haircut after losing both of his priests, his punk
Mhm.
priests, and
And
then comes
goes
out.
home.
No, no, no. Hold on. He comes out and he starts a musical. Now, I will say this movie is really interesting because it does have something for everything. It's an action film, it's a romantic film,
Got a luchador.
it's a
It's
luchador. It's got a
it's,
luchador. They've got
it's got love interests. It's got
well, they
vampires
do an entire
acting.
musical set for maybe
Hmm.
5 or 10 minutes where it's about Jesus coming back.
Hmm.
Um, he gets piercings
He
for
gets ear
whatever reason.
piercing,
For whatever reason, that was
and he
just
starts to look and remind me personally of the bad guy from Alvin and the Chipmunk.
yeah. I could definitely see that. I think we made
He
some jokes
begins
about
to
that.
represent the bad guy from Alvin and the Chipmunks. And if you really think about Alvin and the Chipmunks, because it really is a cinematic masterpiece,
Uh huh.
um, he's trying to create a life for these chipmunks. You know what I mean? Take them on the road, get them like a stable income, set them up for their future. And um, the dad, quote unquote, right, is trying to like take them away because selfishly, like he's the dad in the movie is actually the bad guy if you really think about it. So the way I look at Alvin and the Chipmunks, the good guy is actually the bad guy, just like Jesus is in this movie.
Oh, wow, that was a long way to connect back to a film about Jesus killing vampires.
I just like talking about Alvin and the Chipmunks. I'm just extremely passionate about this
I
movie,
see.
and I
But
and I like to draw correlations to it throughout every aspect of my life.
okay. Well, that's good. So we might see more Alvin and the Chipmunks dialogue later on when we review other bad movies.
Of
But
course,
we move on
20
from
years since
this.
I've seen that movie.
We move on from this from where he has a musical to where he meets another priest.
The love interest.
No, no, we're not there
Oh,
yet. We're not there yet. We meet another priest, which sends him on his journey. Remember, to go kill the vampires. We meet this priest. We don't really know um what this priest's backstory is or what's his relation to Jesus. We saw him at the beginning of the film where he told the punk priest to go fight vampires, but we don't know what his relationship is with Jesus. So he just kind of finds Jesus and he goes, "Hey, those vampires are killing a whole bunch of people and you need to stop them." As
yeah,
if Jesus wasn't already, you
yeah, as
know.
if he wasn't already.
But
And
I
he gives Jesus like $7 and then sends him on his way.
he does. He
Right?
gives Jesus $7, and the film is making it out as right after this musical number, as if Jesus is super depressed and sad that he lost his people, and then
He failed. He failed
he failed,
his military strategy of having his priests bless the lake and then not do anything else got them killed.
got them killed, and
So
so
if I
we
remember properly, Parker, he goes
yeah,
home, right?
uh-huh.
He meets um Mary Magnum, right? Which is
You're not
um
remembering correctly.
Parker, I think we gotta like skip through. We're not gonna explain every second
Well, we're
scene of
just
this.
no, no,
Right?
no. I mean, it will get faster as the time goes on, and we can cut it down. But we do
Okay.
have to give our view. Like, there are some interesting parts here because
Okay.
you're missing the entirety of the montage where he beats up random people in the park.
Oh, I thought that happened after Mary Magdalene.
No, because he got the $7 and he said, "Oh, I'm gonna need some things to go fight the zombie or
I'm gonna
the
stick.
vampires.
Is
I'm
what
gonna
he
need
said.
stakes." Right. And so he goes and gets wood. Now we don't see him pay for the wood.
No,
So we
he
don't
probably didn't have to. He's Jesus.
He's Jesus. He's just walking home with this wood, and then he gets attacked in the park by one jeep. One jeep pulls up
Mhm.
to the side of the park and just starts attacking Jesus. And
And
that starts about a 10-minute process of Jesus beating up people that we are not necessarily sure are vampires or not.
no, they don't tell you. Only through there's a spoiler alert here. All right, only through the trivia do we find out that these people were actually atheists trying to kill Jesus. Um, and
Yeah,
that's why they were so bad at kung fu.
again, this movie gives you so much, but it is a giant, giant montage of him beating the crap out of random people, and you have no
It,
idea.
it looks like they went to a high school drama class and a like middle-aged like theater group, and they said, hey, do you guys want to be in a movie? We'll give you each like a gift card to, I don't know, Lobster Fest or Subway. We'll give you like a $15 gift card to Subway,
Right.
and if you want to be in this movie, like we'll pay you that much. And they're like, oh sure. And so we get to watch a bunch of very subpar actors duke it out with Jesus, the man, the myth, the legend himself.
Yeah, and all of them are bad. They don't ever get a hit off of Jesus except for one dude
Oh,
who gets
one
one
dude, yeah.
hit, and then he is just smacked in the face, and then supposedly
I,
that's him being down for the count.
I mean, it's a holy smack. It's not just any smack.
It's with the whole yeah, it's with the holy hands.
The holy
So
hand.
anyway, so yeah, then he goes back to his apartment, he meets his love interest, they go on
Mary Magnum.
yeah, Mary Magnum. I see, okay, this movie does a really good job at taking itself very seriously at times and then also breaking the like either the fourth wall or just breaking your
Mind.
expectations in terms of like it tries to be a parody but isn't really a good parody. But
No, it's not, it doesn't really make a good real anything.
no, but I will say, like, the fact that, like, so, going back to the montage, they had everyone, the fighting montage, everyone got out of one Jeep, right? And there was,
Hmm.
like, maybe, what,
It
30
was the
people?
joke was like a clown car of atheists.
Right. And so, just in the same sense, they decided to name the love interest Mary Magnum to
Hmm.
follow, like, a parody, I guess, of James Bond.
And Mary from the Bible.
Yeah.
And her name's Mary Magnum is because she's Mary, right, from the Bible, but she has a gun. So she's Mary Magnum. That's her name, and she always has a gun, and that's like her thing.
Right. Well, James Bond did this too with all their characters where they would have the first name as it's like Peter Parker, right? Where the first name kind of has the same letter as the last name.
Hmm.
But anyway, he meets his love interest and then they go and have a
James
montage.
Bond.
They have a montage of them trying on clothes. Once again, it has everything, has something for everyone because it has an entire montage where Jesus is just
Trying
trying
clothes. Like if
different
you're
clothes.
like a fashionista, you probably like this part of the movie. You know what I mean? You'd love to see Jesus in different outfits.
Yeah, yeah. Not really looking like Jesus. Again, he's
No,
short
he
hair,
looks
has
like the good
earrings.
guy from Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Yeah. Um, and then we move on to the mid fight of the movie where they kind of break in. They find out that the vampires are living under some what was it? Some hospital.
Yeah, and there's
And
like a
then
they're using the skin of lesbians to be able to walk around in the daylight. And the way they explain why that works is because of theological science, if I remember properly. That's all they said. Ah, yes, this is theological science. And then that was enough for them apparently.
Yeah, well, they
Nothing wrong
never.
too. I mean, that makes sense. And, theological science. You ever heard of it?
Yeah, they never really explain much in the movie, which gives it its kind of magical charm. Um, but what they do explain, for whatever reason, first of all, the main character, Jesus, has to overhear this, which, okay, why? I guess if you have such a bad explanation, what's the point of giving the explanation? But
Hmm.
okay, they hear this, and then they start on the mid-fight sequence where they are running up. Uh, oh wait, no, sorry. They exit the hospital. They go to a lesbian clinic. Then they have the
A
mid-fight.
lesbian clinic. I remember they had a clinic for lesbians.
Right, and then it turns
They
out.
didn't say anything was wrong with them. They just said that they're just there.
Yeah, and as soon as they walk in, here's the funny part, really funny part of the movie. I don't know if it's the best part, but a funny part of the movie, they walk in and they keep looping this woman's scream.
Oh, there's this old lady. Trivia says that she's the mother of Mary Magnum, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, they keep looping her scream, which is just like you couldn't have someone just naturally scream into a mic. You had to have like this 5 second clip of them, soundbite of them screaming, and then just keep playing it over and over again. So it sounds really weird. And this is she screams whenever she
Yeah.
comes back into the room and finds out all the lesbians have been bitten by the vampires.
Yeah.
This movie doesn't tell us if biting means that you turn into a vampire or if biting means that you die.
Yeah. There's no explanation of how to turn into a vampire because there's certain times when they get bit and they turn into vampires, and there's other times where they get bit and they don't turn into vampires.
Yeah, well, I don't the bites. I don't know. Maybe it's like the like how hard this vampire bites, but like whenever a vampire does bite someone, either they have blood running out of their mouth
Hmm.
or they turn into a vampire. Or they
That's
do
true.
both. Mary Magnum actually did both.
Yeah, so you're spoiling it, Parker. Mary Magnum gets turned into a vampire.
Well, that's in this
After
scene. They
buying a very racist doll and toilet for some reason.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, during that
yeah,
fashion
it was a
montage.
weird kind of part in the movie where she's just like very infatuated with this very racist depiction of an African American gentleman. Um, just kind of weird.
Yeah,
Not
yeah,
gonna lie,
we
there's
don't.
no cinematic gain to that at all. So
No, I have no idea. I guess it's maybe to highlight her humanity in terms of like.
why? What about that highlights her humanity? Her buying
No, no,
buying
no. In terms of her having interests that are other than
Jesus.
just Jesus, because throughout the movie she's just her and Jesus are having this like really weird and awkward, like she'll have a sexual advance on him and then he
And he's
doesn't
Jesus.
acknowledge it because he's
He's Jesus.
Jesus.
Yeah. So, anyway, lesbian clinic. They go up. They fight the vampires. They're killing all the lesbians at the lesbian clinic. They lose. Jesus gets like thrown off the building, or he escapes somehow. I don't remember.
Yeah,
And
he just escapes. He just
Mary
walks out though.
Magnum Mary Magnum gets captured and bitten as a vamp and becomes a vampire. Right. Um,
Yeah,
so Jesus,
well,
seeing that his teammate is gone, he's like, I'm alone now again. Mary Magnum's my backup. I don't have it anymore. You know what? I'm gonna call the Luchador Santiano.
well before he gets to that point, he's stabbed. Somehow he leaves the building. We don't see him. He's stabbed and then he's picked up by a transgendered person. This was a
Or
film
a
made in.
cross dresser. I think it was maybe just a cross dresser. I'm not
I,
sure if it was a transgendered.
okay,
Um,
well, whatever it was, or whatever the person was, they bring him back to. They bring Jesus back to the house, lay him in their own bed, and Jesus is knocked out for some reason, and then Jesus wakes up and this random person is wearing lingerie and then kisses Jesus, and then we just cut from there this really weird and awkward scene that has no reason being like there was nothing there
yeah, it was
adding
just
to the
we
film.
just wanted to make people uncomfortable. I think.
Yeah, and then he just wakes up and now he's at his luchador friends.
Mm-hmm. So he calls his luchador friends, um, uh, El Santos, I think his name was. And I'm looking at a quote from El Santo right now. This is his quote on IMDb. He'll have you wrestling midgets in the border towns for 10% of the net, which I have no idea at what point he said that.
No, wait a minute,
Um,
wait a minute. Is this like the actual actor's quote, or is this like a
yeah,
quote from the movie?
this is a quote from the movie.
Oh my gosh, I don't remember that.
I think. That's what it says on IMDb. All right,
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know. Um, so he gets El Santo, right? And El Santo brings his big bootied like girlfriend, right? And everyone keeps touching her butt. That's like the joke. She's got like this dumpy dump truck of an ass. You know what I mean? Like a whole ass dumpster
Yeah.
in her pants. And even Jesus is getting a little bit of that feely action. You know what I mean? He can't resist. That's like second layer of hell. That lust. She's like a demon of lust. You know what I mean? Um, where was I going with that? Sorry, I got lost in the.
I don't know where you were going with. Well, I
I
mean,
got lost in the dump truck. She had such a dumpy butt, dude.
well, I guess it's just a reoccurring joke that they use throughout the movie, but they do it in such a way that doesn't make it seem like it's just a reoccurring joke. It just makes it seem like everyone's okay with sexually harassing this random woman,
Yeah, it's kind of odd.
which is very odd. Um, but they directly go from there to a bar filled with vampires. They have another fight scene. Um,
And Luchador gets captured.
Luchador gets captured. His girlfriend gets captured, and then Jesus ends up, going back to his house. He's really sad. Has a talk with God, and then decides he's going to take it and stick it to the vampires. And so he goes back to finds out where the vampire hideout, or not hideout, but I guess where the vampires are keeping Mr. Luchador. And we learn from that, spoiler alert, that the priest in the original
Start of the movie, he's
start of
a
the movie,
vampire.
he's a
That was the big
vampire.
twist.
That was an interesting. Well, my question is, why did he start Jesus out on this journey in the first
Yeah,
place then?
I don't know. I don't know.
Um, but
There's
then
no
Mr.
reason.
Luchador, in true Luchador fashion, breaks out of his chains.
Wait. So they tied Jesus up,
Yeah,
um,
that's right.
cars, and they start like trying to pull him apart. Um, and Luchador, seeing Jesus himself being ripped apart by cars, breaks out of his chains, which make you think, why didn't he do that in the beginning?
He does this like paper. Like it's
Yeah,
not even a problem for him.
he grabs the ropes pulling Jesus apart, rips one of them out, right, and then he takes his mouth and rips the other one out. And then Jesus unties himself, and then they start kung fu fighting. Um, and Luchador, if I remember properly, just starts destroying people.
Yeah, yeah.
He should. He's a luchador. He's just annihilating these vampires.
Well,
Um,
nobody. It's funny because throughout the movie, for whatever reason, nobody has any regards, like any like reservations about just killing everything that moves in front of them. Like Jesus, like you're not supposed to kill Jesus. Jesus is like, oh no, they're vampires. We could just
the vampires, you can just stab them.
stab them. And Jesus also, I guess, planned so far ahead that he had an extra garlicky lunch, so that way he could breathe on the vampires if he didn't have any
Oh
more
yeah,
weapons.
I remember that. You
Yeah.
like breathe on it, and then so there's this huge fight scene. Mary Magnum gets knocked out, and Jesus kills the final bad guys. Right? Then they stab Jesus in the chest,
Now, but
and
we also learned here this is where Jesus uses his double
oh yeah, so
speeding power.
there's the doctor, right, that was watching. There was a camera crew recording Jesus fighting all these vampires, and it was being filmed on TV. And the vampire doctor that was making the skinning the lesbians, it's getting ridiculous now. So there's Dr. Vampire is attacked by second Jesus, who's like, I am everywhere, and then proceeds to beat the shit out of Dr. Vampire while fighting um, the vampires with like back to back with the Luchador. And one of the vampires drives a stake through Jesus's chest, and that's when we see like the light of God shine right through this hole in Jesus' chest, and he just starts burning all of these vampires into ash with his like Iron Man sunbeam of a chest hole.
Yeah, so we
Um,
actually get two new powers for Jesus. Jesus can multiply, and Jesus can also, in his wounds, smite people down with
oh
light.
yeah,
Yeah, it
he's
does
a
really for a superhero origin movie. This does give us a lot to play with if they were to
it
make a
is a.
sequel.
I will say, if you had to make Jesus a superhero, they did a pretty good job.
They did
You know what
do a
I mean?
pretty good job. They had
Of
a
of giving he's a kung fu master, right? Which is expected. You know what I mean? But he can like he's everywhere. You know that's a cool play on words, and he could just smite you with holes in his body. That's kind of awesome. I'm not gonna lie,
yeah,
kind
and
of awesome.
I get
Others hear of like Jesus, like oh he did. They just say the things he did in the Bible. You know what I mean? This one they're
right.
like he can also do this, and I'm
He
not gonna lie.
he can
I'm
do
a
a lot of stuff apparently. And the funny thing is that this movie constantly brings up things from the Bible, but then reinterprets them. So like, for,
in the narrative of a vampire universe.
well, not even that. Like, the final twist at the end of the movie, right? Is that he wakes up Mary Magnum and she's actually a lesbian, which doesn't make any sense considering she was doing all these sexual advances on Jesus throughout the movie. But
No,
he,
no, no, no. That's not true. Because there was that one time when they were looking at the doctor in the vent,
uh-huh.
and she says, "Man, that's a hot vampire."
Yeah,
Right?
but you
That
just
girl's hot. And
assumed.
he goes, "She's a vampire," and she's like, "Oh." So come on, Parker. That was very clearly her being a lesbian there.
No, no, no. But hold on. We've already established because in the movie we also find out that like there's a girl who's bi who after her, you know,
Maybe she's
girlfriend
just horny, Parker.
dies. Right. Well, that's what I'm thinking. You think at the end of this movie, the movie leads you up to the idea that Mary Magnum and her uh are going to end up, or Mary Magnum and Jesus are going to end up together, but they don't. It actually turns out that she decides to go for the ex-vampire girl
Mm-hmm.
and says to Jesus that she can't be with him because she's a lesbian.
Hmm. Which also, if you think about it, right? If you were gonna not be a lesbian for any man, it'd probably be Jesus. You
Yeah,
know,
I don't know. It was really weird because
maybe
again,
she was
there's
having
this like,
like a sexuality crisis when she saw him,
yeah,
and then it was
maybe.
resolved at the end of the movie when she saw a really hot girl.
But what I meant by like he then proceeds to cite her like a Bible verse and then says I love you the way you are, which is just like I get that there's this message and it's an interesting weird way, but it, like there throughout the film there's just this weird where they just take Bible verses and then reinterpret them in a way that, kind of
Mhm.
fits their narrative, which is perfectly fine. It's just interesting.
This is a very interesting, low budget, beautiful film.
Yeah,
Um,
so I guess the last part, the vampires are gone, and Jesus decides that he's going to put on a business suit, go to a park, and start preaching.
to like 30 people,
Yeah, preaching about
about 30
how you
people.
need to follow his teachings, and then everybody starts looking at their phones. And then we get the weird guy back, who the weird guy says it
Well,
was all a
they don't
story.
look at the phones. Remember, God calls everyone on their phone.
Was that God?
That's God.
I thought
Yeah.
that everyone was just trying to figure out which phone was actually going off.
Oh, I think he called everyone, and then Jesus picked up.
Okay, yeah. I didn't. The common theme for our watch party throughout this film was none of us got any of the details right. We would always either be talking over the movie or it would just be so confusing that we would make up our own thing. So that could be right. I could be completely wrong.
We got the
Um,
general gist of the movie.